everyone, I'm Steph.
And I'm Megan.
And welcome to the very first episode of Late Night Reads.
Yay! We're here.
Yay.
We did it.
We're so excited. Well, this is the first episode for you. Megan and I have been talking about this for a long time. So we're excited to have the baby live.
The baby is here. And this week we're diving into the magical world of romantasy and we're covering the book Thrall by K.A. Riley.
So let's talk about why we selected Thrall. It's the first book in the Thrall series. There's 4 books out, and the 5th book comes out May 30th. And when it comes to romantasy, Megan and I, we love a good series, especially one that has multiple books out that we can binge read because we are not patient people.
Yeah, no. I need to know what's happening, like, right now.
Right now.
Yeah.
And then we're also aware that that Thrall by the author is called a dystopian novel, and it is. We get that. So please do not come at us for including it into the romantasy genre. But it is in our definition because it contains the 2 requirements for us that meet romantasy, which is magic and romance. So there we go.
And then it's some spice. It's got
and
spice.
Well, always. I feel like that's just a requirement on this show. There has to be spice.
Yeah.
We're at least a 3-pepper show.
At least, minimum.
At least.
And and this is really an ideal book if you're just getting into romantasy and you're not used to the world building. K.A. Riley does a really fantastic job introducing you to the world in a way that is easily digestible while also really detailed. And we honestly haven't seen many people talking about this book, so more people definitely need to know about it. And last but not least, once we started reading it, like we said, we could not put it down. Right, Steph?
Yeah, I couldn't. I finished the book, I think, 1 a.m. on a Saturday and was like, is it too late to start the next book?
Right.
And the answer was, it was. But I started the first thing in the morning. So it's one of those books, like, once you get into it, it's really hard to stop reading it. And it also is hard to not want to, like, immediately jump to the next book. And that, to me, is what makes a really good romantasy book or really just any good book and something really great about a series.
Yeah. Now here's a few things that you should know about our author, K.A. Riley. So she's a Canadian and we love to support our friends across the border. Hey, Canada, what's up? And she's written both adult and young adult books. So you really need to keep that in mind when you look at her other books. But this one is definitely for the adults. She is super active on social media, including TikTok, and she does not shy away from sharing her beliefs, which honestly, we love an outspoken woman. So more power to you, girl. And she's written more than 40 books within the fantasy genre, with all of them being part of various series. So, like, once you like her stuff, you can definitely jump in and explore and see what else she has going on. We like that too, because then you kind of like get a whole new world into that genre.
Yeah, and I have a personal thing where once I get an author that I like, I immediately want to read like everything they've written. So
right?
I love the authors that have multiple books for me to choose from. But before we jump into this book, a couple of key reminders. This episode will contain spoilers. If you are listening, we assume that you have read the book. You have been warned. Do not comment at us that we gave you spoilers. This is about the book. There will be spoilers. And then the book does contain some topics that may be sensitive for some readers. So these are based on our interpretation of the book. And there are 3: emotional abuse, there is some sexual assault, and violence. Now, let's talk tropes.
Yeah, talk trope to me, baby. Okay, so the 3 tropes that we see in this book are enemies to lovers, or it could also kind of be like forbidden love, maybe a little bit of both. And then we see fated mates and secrets, lots of secrets. So we're going to get into those 3 as we go along.
But let's talk about every magical twist. There is so much great world building in this book. There is so much great magic, and it's very unexpected. One of the things that I love is the way the book starts out. She gives you the 7 rules of the realm, like the first page that you read, which I've not seen a lot of books do that.
Right. And it's nice that you can like go back and like reference it. Like I remember doing that when I when you're reading like Onyx Storm and like all of those, you're like, okay, like where am I in this campus? Like where am I in the world? So it's nice to have like a checkpoint. But for the 7 rules of the realm. So from the birth inside the tower, humans with unnatural powers, otherwise known as tethered, are the property of the nobles. If they're deemed worthy at a certain age, 19, they're offered a placement within the house. So they become like servants, like servitude. Second, no household other than Kravan's royal family shall own more than 2 tethered at once. Now that's important. So only 2 people. So it'd be like, it's a big deal. 3, to be tethered is to be allowed no physical intimacy whatsoever. There are no expectations. No exceptions. But we have expectations with that, of course. 4, no tethered shall marry or produce offspring. If someone does get pregnant, the baby has to go into the tower and live a tethered life in there with training. Number 5, any tethered who represents a threat will be killed without trial. Number 6, a noble may choose to kill a tethered without fear of punishment. So they can basically do whatever they want. And number 7, no tethered shall be made privy to rules 5 or 6, meaning that they cannot be a threat to the nobility and they cannot kill anyone without punishment. So basically it's a big deal to be a noble. And if you're tethered, you may have magical powers, but you're kind of fucked in terms of society. So
Right. And then there's like this third group that they call normals. And when I first started reading it, I was like, these are the most interesting language to use. Like nobles make sense, right? That's something that in a class system is pretty common. But I was like, why are they called tethered? And why are we calling people normals? That's just an interesting nomenclature. But within the tethered group, there are kind of, at least in this book, 3 kind of groups of powers, it seems like. So you have these crimson elites or these aggressives that could make them very dangerous, but also make them really good guards if they don't kill you. Then you have violets, which have like potentially problematic powers, but they're useful. And then you have harmless, which is, I mean, basically useless people is kind of how they're described. Which is kind of interesting, but it's due to their lesser powers. So it's what I found fascinating about that is you have like this class system of nobles, normals, and tethereds, but then you also have like a class system within tethereds too, of how they treat people and how they're kind of grouped.
Yeah, it's really interesting because like the tethered, they all live in this tower until their placement day. And when they have their placement day, they're evaluated and then they get placed with the noble family, which again, the noble families are only allowed to have 2 tethered at a time, except for like the royals. So this tower that they live in is all white, no windows, and people living there have never seen the outside world or sunlight. And so they have no idea basically like what's outside these walls. So all they know is this little like white room and this like battle area that they do stuff in their training. And they're not allowed to have any emotion or any type of intimacy. So already you're kind of like feeling like a buildup, like, okay, clearly that's going to get like brought down. And all the tethered have this thing called a mod device. It's a mental oversight device and it's implanted in their arm and it like connects to their mind. So it's kind of like a built-in parental monitor or like a built-in like Alexa. Hopefully I didn't just trigger mine. Where basically like they talk to it and it gives them advice, but it also like warns them if they're thinking naughty thoughts or they're thinking about doing something they shouldn't do. So basically, yeah, that's kind of fun. And thrall itself means to be, under someone else's power. So they have to worship them, which is basically what the tethered are trained to do for the nobles. And at least that's what they're taught. So they're taught that they have to be like slaves or servants or like a captive.
Then they're not allowed to use any of those words. So it's kind of this interesting situation where they're basically slaves or servants, but they can't call themselves that and they have to pretend or act like this is like the biggest honor of their life.
Like they're not even allowed to call the tower a prison.
When it clearly is a prison, right? It clearly is a prison. A very white, clean prison, though. So when the book starts off, Shara is like in this sparring class and she's basically getting like the shit kicked out of her. And she seems to want to fight back harder and harder, even though her mod is basically telling her not to. And it gave me a little bit of like Violet from Fourth Wing vibes, right? Like you're not the most like powerful strength person in the beginning. But she wants to like push boundaries, right? So she's being told not to do something. She wants to do it. And she basically gets, the shit kicked out of her. But we learn that she's a healer and she can heal her own injuries, which seems like a good thing to have if you're not very strong, at least physically. But during the fighting scene, like this mysterious man comes into the class who clearly is not part of the tether or not part of the tower, right? And they don't think he's a tethered. And Shara feels this like weird pull to him, and he's very attractive. So like everyone notices.
Yeah, he's like this really hot, dark, mysterious guy, and you're just like, I want him already, you know?
Like everyone does, like every female.
And probably some of the guys, honestly.
Probably. And they've never really seen a man like that's older than 19, because the only other people that are there that are older than that are the warden and then the guy that trains them. And so there's like questions like, is this the prince? Like, who is this mysterious guy? And also like, why is Shara feeling this weird connection to him? At first I was like, oh, it's probably just like he's hot, because he is.
Yeah, like you're like, oh my God, a hot boy, you're getting like tingly feelings.
Right.
So who knows? But then at dinner, we get to see the interactions between Shara and her best friends, Nev and Elias. And it's clear that Elias is really drinking the Kool-Aid upon how the tether should feel. Like they should feel like honored to work for the nobles. And Shara has her doubts and asks questions, and her mod picks up on it. And, you know, because she's indicating a level of disloyalty. And so her mod is like, Shara, stop. You cannot think these thoughts. You need to stop. And it's like, I can't imagine if I had one of those, like what it would be like to get constantly poked by something that can read my thoughts. Like, I'd probably get like buzzed all the time.
That's exactly what I thought. I'm like, how many times would it like zap me? And can you have so many zaps that makes your brain stop working? Because I feel like that would be my case.
Yeah. Like, it actually reminds me, there's an episode of Futurama, a little tangent, where the character Leela, she gets like an implant that like is supposed to make her stop thinking like aggressive thoughts. And it's like every 2 seconds she's like, I'm like, I feel like that would be me with any thought. That wouldn't be appropriate. But anyway, but the best part of this dinner scene is when the mysterious man from earlier, Thorn, we find out his name, he tries to find Shara and he tries to shake her hand. He's like, hi, nice to meet you. And she thinks it's a test because they're not supposed to touch anyone. And of course, she follows the rules and he's like, good job. Okay. But you can already tell that there's like a sexual tension there, because like if you're not allowed to touch someone, like all you want to do is touch them. Like you want to scratch that itch, you know?
Well, and you can't touch anyone. Like she can't even touch like Nev or anything. So like they've not really had like human contact at all, which is like my brain has a hard time wrapping around that idea.
Right? Like if your friend falls down, you can't help them up.
No.
You
like you get
can't give them a hug.
Chastised for it. So I was gonna say, Shara and her friends learn that he's there to help them evaluate them for placement day, but he's like, he makes this like comment how like, I'm particularly interested in a few of you. And I'm just like, ooh, who and how? And my mind goes straight to the gutter. So I'm like, yes, you are. Right?
You get buzzed.
But then when he goes to leave, Shara has this like moment where she's like swears she feels like his fingers brushed against her neck, but then she doesn't get like a warning and assumes like it's just her imagination. And all I thought was like, that is so relatable, because how many times have you like, especially when you're younger and you're in relationship, not in a relationship, but you have like a crush and they like accidentally brush by you and you're like, that he meant to do that on purpose. Or like, did that happen? Was it my imagination? So
yeah. And everybody else is like super attracted to Thorn because he's a hot god. But Shara, like, even though she's attracted, she doesn't trust him because she knows that he's there to do the noble's bidding. So she's just like, there's no way that, you know, he meant to touch me or anything.
And then the other thing that was really fascinating for me is like Nev and Elias, they're supposedly Shara's best friends, but they like talk down to her all the time because her powers aren't as strong. And it's interesting because like I could see that from like the warden's perspective, or like how he might, you know, push a class system between the different levels of powers among the tethers. But to see who she's calling her best friends, not that she has many options, let's be honest, but they're kind of also putting her down too, which all it made me think of is, you know, you have no physical contact, you've had no parents, and then you have this girl who is constantly, even with her friends, being reminded how useless she is in terms of like what she can bring to the table.
Yeah, like you're less than because she's like labeled like a harmless, you know, so like she can't do anything. But like her mod does, however, seem to always be on her side. So like even when her mod is being like a pain in the ass and like zapping her, we do learn that her mod can help her because at one point when she's fighting Drew Carr, which is this like really big guy who's like a, you know, Crimson Elite, basically. So she's fighting him, and Maud actually is able to freeze him during the fight. And it's like, okay, how? Like something, Maud's been like altered in some way to make her more powerful. And it's like, what else has she been up to the past few years? Like, how else has she been helping Shara throughout her time? So that's really interesting to see that Maud is starting to get her own like yeah personality, like AI intelligence, you know, is getting like its own, is taking over, you know.
Yeah, but it makes me wonder, like you said, like what else has she been up to? How long has this been going on? Why is this going on? It's the first piece that we see that Maud is doing something to help her without her knowing it, at least right
Yeah,
away.
yeah, so it's kind of like that like unspoken like parental figure in a way. And then we
Yes.
get to placement, yeah, then we get to placement day, and Shara gets to see herself in the mirror for the first time, which is kind of crazy because it's like you've lived 19 years of your life and never seen what you look like. Like, yeah, you can like look down and be like, okay, I have this color hair, like, and like this is kind of like what like my skin looks like, sure. But they can only see each other. They can't see themselves. And it's kind of crazy because they've been, you know, sheltered their whole lives and they've never had to worry about their appearance. And now they're going to be judged on their appearance. So it's kind of like you're told, don't care what you look like. Oh, and now suddenly it's the most important day of your life. You have to care what you look like.
Like how do you wrap your head around that, right? Like you've never seen yourself. Now make sure you look nice. Like how do you know what look nice means?
Right? Yeah, which is nice because at least like that's where like the mod comes in and she's like, okay, like let's help you do your hair and your makeup, which conveniently comes again later in the book, so that's nice. I wish I had a mod for that. I'm like, I don't know how to do a braid. Can you just move my hands and make me do it? Thanks.
That would be amazing.
That'd be so great.
So then you have like the Prefect Thorn and the Warden visit Shara's White Room. That's what her room is called, which is kind of an interesting nomenclature choice versus just calling it a room. And it's really important in this situation is she can read their lips as they're talking outside of her room. And the prefect asks if it's safe to the warden, which at the time, like Shara was thinking, oh, it's because there have been some other incidents before in the past where there have been harmless that have done things. But if she's really useless, why are you asking if it's safe to go in her room? Right? Like there's more to the story.
Yeah, what do they know that we don't know yet? And also, one thing to know is like Shara is super like OCD clean. And so like her like she may be harmless, but she's like a cleaner. She like that's why I kind of think of like the Cinderella thing, you know, like she's always cleaning all the time. Because like there's nothing else to do in this fucking tower except clean.
Right? I was gonna say when it talks about her getting on the I was gonna say when it talks about her getting on the floor to like look for pieces of dust, I'm just like, that is next level clean.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I kind of relate to that because I do love to clean. And so when I get into a cleaning frenzy, I'm like under the bed with my vacuum, like, where are those dust bunnies? I'm gonna get every single one. Um, so I couldn't imagine living in a white room. I would probably go insane. Which maybe that's what they mean. They're like, is it safe? Like, is she sane? Like, she's been cleaning her whole life. Is she cray cray? I don't know. Maybe.
Aren't we all a little
Uh,
bit though?
oh, 100%. Okay, but then we learn that Thorn is a tethered, so he's not the prince. And that has a really big impact on Shara because she had assumed that he was and that he had no powers. So now she's like, oh, he's kind of like me and he has powers. Maybe he really was reading my mind. And when he kind of like smirked at her, maybe he could just like see right through her. Who knows? And honestly, I'm really glad that mind reading isn't real because I have a hard enough time controlling my facial expressions, you know? And I'm, again, the mod, I'm like, so, you know, dirty thoughts always. I definitely wouldn't want anyone trying to control my thoughts or read my thoughts. That'd be bad.
Right. And I couldn't control mine if I tried, right? Like
No.
I it's hard enough to control my face.
Right. Yeah. Well, I got Botox, so you can't tell that at least. I
That
look
that does
mad.
help.
I can barely lift it that high. Oh, I love it. Um, okay.
I was gonna say this is when Shara finds out she has to fight Thorn. So
Mhm.
I mean, Shara's not good at fighting, like, in general, but apparently everyone's going to fight him as part of the assessment. And so that's like problem one. Problem two is at this point, he might be a masochist because he is like really looking forward to injuring someone or potentially killing them based on the commentary he's making. So not only do they feel like they've like basically had to survive to get to this day, which is supposed to be like not freedom, but like at least leaving the tower and they've passed the necessary tests. Now it's like, oh, but you might also have to fight someone who may or may not injure you or kill you. Good luck.
Yeah. Yeah, and you have to fight back, or you're fucked.
Right. Or you're fucked, right? So they have to fight him. Then they have to interview with him and the warden and the prefect. And then all of their like records and their mods records are reviewed. And this, bear with me for those of you who grew up in the South or know about Southern sorority recruitment. But it made me think of that because while there is not technically any physical combat in sorority recruitment, it does feel like an all-out battle among women. And so, and you are assessed based on like literally everything you have ever done in your entire life and what you wear and what you say and how you breathe, it seems like, to determine your potential sorority placement. That is what I thought of when I read about what was going to happen for placement assessment. I was just like, oh, so it's like sorority recruitment, but with fists.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like, which house am I going to get into? Am I going to get into Delta Gamma or am I going to get into Alpha Phi? That's what we both were. It's like, am I going to get my number one choice? But really, they're just like, am I going to live?
Or die.
Or am I going to die? Yeah. So I kind of actually prefer our version better. I'm like,
it was a little better. Yeah.
It was a little bit better. So it was fun. So the combat starts. Thorn starts with Drakkar, who again is kind of like that asshole who's always itching for a fight. And always like he was the one that was beating up Shara earlier. And but he asks Shara, he's like, hey, I need you to stand between us. And she's like, what the fuck? Like he's gonna like kill me. What are you doing? And her instincts tell her not to do it, but she's been trained to be obedient, so she has to. And she's standing there like, okay, I'm about to die. Like this guy is really like a sadist and, you know, like really wants to watch me die apparently. But like as the fight starts, she feels like a gust of wind and she sees Thorn's hand, like kind of like Shadow Daddy-ish, go around Drakkar's throat and like sends him flying to the ground. So really he was like protecting her. But it's kind of like, well, that's kind of fucked up, but also kind of like turning me on a bit too.
Right. And I feel like that starts like the theme for like the rest of the mind fucking that occurs between the two of them in the book, because I'm just like, 1 minute I think you're gonna kill me, now you just protected me, but you wanted me to think that you were gonna kill me and let me die? What's going on here?
So that's when things get really interesting because the combat rounds continue and then Thorn suddenly puts like black walls all around him and everybody else. So again, I'm thinking like, ooh, Shadow Daddy. I love a good Shadow Daddy.
Who doesn't?
Right? And so nobody can see what's going on inside. So everyone just assumes like the worst, obviously, like fighting's happening. And then some people come out and they're just like, dude, this guy's on another level. Like that's what Elias says. And then Shara, it's her turn to fight. And he threatens her when he's inside and saying like, you're going to get the worst placement if you don't prove that you want to win. And she's like, what the fuck? Like, I don't understand. Like, I'm just trying to do what I'm told. But that's when things get really interesting. And she touches him and she feels this like weird sensation, which is probably like a little bit different than like a turn on sensation, but she like can feel like a connection to him. And he knows that she can feel this connection. And he throws up the walls, asks her like, what are you feeling? And she has a hard time describing it, but she ultimately says that she can like see what he is and see how strong he is. So it's like she can sense his power. And he immediately says, don't tell anybody what you just felt when you touched me. And he like throws the walls down. And remember, he was like, you need to fight me. You need to. Because you're going to get good placement if you do. And at this point, you know, you're just like super confused by him. Like, yeah, 1 minute he's nice, 1 minute he's an asshole. Kind of Rice and vibes. Which again, you're like, okay, Shadow Daddy, I'll take it.
Right?
And it's like, do you hate me? Do you love me? Do you want to hurt me? Do you want to fuck me? A little bit of both? I don't know. Like, let's
all
find
of it
out.
at the same time.
Maybe, you know, they're a little S&M couple. I don't know.
Well,
but I'm here for
I
it. I'm here for
I'm
it.
here for it too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, don't we always love like the bad, like who the guy that's like the bad guy that's not good for you, but also like you can't stay away from? Like that's the vibes I got from Thorne. Like you were so wrong, and for me, for the situation, let alone the fact that she's not supposed to touch anyone. But also, I'm very interested.
Yes, yes.
So after fighting, right, it's time for interviews, and she finds out it's not necessary. So immediately she's going to go to her placement, and I'm just like, can you imagine what like she must have been thinking at that moment? Hi, we've already decided for you. We need no further information. That doesn't sound like a good situation,
Yeah, you're like, did I fuck up? I don't know. Ugh. But
right?
like
Did I
she
not
and she
fight hard
can't.
enough?
Yeah, right. It's like, God, shit. It's like, do they know I touched him? Like, I don't know. But then like she can't say goodbye to anybody. She's immediately told like, here you go, bye bye. And she's like, I don't get to like see Nev. I don't get to see Elias. Like, and it's like as if they aren't broken down enough by like not physically being able to touch anyone. They just relationships aren't encouraged, like not even friendships. So like not even be able to get to say goodbye to your best friend is like such a slap in the face. Or like putting salt or lemon like on your wounds. It's like what the fuck. So you really feel for Shara. Like she has no one, and the people that she did know are being ripped away from her. It just
It's
sucks.
just hard, right? And then she goes outside, which
Mhm.
like for the rest of us is a normal day, but she's never been outside. She's not seen like the sky, the sun, trees. And all I could think about was like, imagine that you have to say goodbye to your friends, but you can't say goodbye. You have to move out of the prison slash home that you've only known. And then you go outside where there's like all of these smells and sounds and colors. Like, how is her brain not literally spasming out right now and like with the a sensory over like being overwhelmed? Because mine would be, especially because like all she's really seen is white for so many
Never
years.
seen color. Yeah. And even like what
Uh,
they wear is like just like bland, just like bleh. So
Yeah.
it's
Well,
not
and she
fun.
has this, she's like excited to go outside, right? Like before we get to this point, she's talking about how she can't wait to see it. She can't wait to see the Capitol because she thinks it's this wonderful place where these normals live happily in these little homes. And she goes outside and like the sky is pretty, the trees are pretty, but then like the Capitol looks like basically a wasteland of shit. It looks horrible. So it's a very interesting like reaction that she has because it's different than what she thought. And I think this is where you start to question like how much of what she thinks is what she's been told, what she's read. Books are really kind of forbidden a lot. They don't have a lot of education versus what she's imagined in her life or imagined it to be. Because you have to think like there's so much of being in that situation where you would want to create like a false world yourself to just survive it. But as it turns out, she got a great placement. She's going to live with a noble family who apparently, as they describe it, is only exceeded by the royal family who is actually next door.
Yeah, it's like, oh, BT Dubs, like you're living in this like shitty white room tower, and now you're gonna go live next door to the palace. And you're like,
Like, what?
what? Yeah. And here you get to meet Lady Verdun and her two daughters, but they're actually her stepdaughters. So that's again like where you kind of see the fairy tale Cinderella esque, except it's not her stepmother and her stepsisters, but that's kind of the family scenario that she falls into. Which again, like you don't really see it, like you're told in the beginning that it's Cinderella-esque, and you're like, okay, sure, but you don't see any of that until now, and you see evil stepmother, two stepsisters, and then you find out that like Lord Verdun recently died, and also like the room that Shara has to live in is very like Cinderella-esque. It's like upstairs, like in like a kind of like an attic, like tucked away from everybody else, and it's like in like the servants' quarters, which makes sense because she's supposed to be a servant, but again, you're kind of like, okay, stepmother, stepsisters, check, check, all by yourself, check. But then she gets a knock on the door. And who is it? Ah, it's our sexy shadow daddy Thorn. And she automatically assumes that somehow she's being replaced because she's like, what the fuck are you doing here? And last I saw you was placement time. But it turns out she's in the same house as him, and he's the reason she was placed in this home. So maybe there was a little something, something in that little touch that happened. So it's literally, again, like, oh my God, is he trying to just like drive her insane and like mind fuck? Because it's like, what the hell, dude? Like, you were trying to get me placed in your house? Maybe. Mm.
Right? But also, you were telling me that if I didn't fight, I was going to have the worst placement possible, and you would ensure. It's just very back and like hot and cold with him. But when she's in her room, she starts looking around because like, what else is she to do? So she's looking for dust bunnies probably, and she
Right? Yeah. She's
finds
like,
this
what's under
like
the bed?
right finds this little
Yeah.
coin disc, and she learns that, and she somehow knows that she needs a reader to see what's on it, which is kind of interesting that she like knew that. So she goes and gets one from Thorn, but she doesn't tell him about the disc that she found. So like she's already keeping secrets because she knows she's violating rules, let's be honest. And then the thing that we learn about Thorn that's really important in this book is that he's really good with technology and has apparently created some like surveillance mice to like roam around the house for spying purposes, and he gives her one for companionship, which also like kind of ties into Cinderella. Um,
Yeah,
which
because
is
she
kind of
sees,
cute.
yeah, it's like she sees a little mouse and she's like, I saw a mouse. And he's like, are you sure it was a mouse? And she's like, well, I've seen a picture of a mouse in a book. Because again, she's never seen a mouse before. And yeah, so it's kind of like, okay, Cinderella, you got a little mousy mouse. But it's so cute. And she names him Mercutio. And it's just like, oh, so sweet. She's got her little mousy friend, you know. But again, it's
It's
not
her
a
version of a
mouse.
pet, I guess.
Yeah, literally. Um, so then Thorne also starts to tell her a bit more about some stuff that she's not usually privy to. That there's like a little kind of quiet war that's raging between the nobles, and that basically they like to dig up dirt on each other. And so that's why Lady Verdun had him kind of like make these surveillance things so that she could always see what's going on. And it's kind of like a Big Brother-esque thing, like a reality TV, or politics. Um, where like so many people are just like power obsessed and they just want so much more power, and it's like nothing's ever enough for them.
And they're always looking to take someone else down, right? Like, how can I get information about someone else to make myself better?
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of like Mean Girls-esque, like I'm gonna put everybody
Yes.
else down. Interesting. Interesting.
So then we get to this journal entry on this desk, and it plays such a big, important role throughout the entire book. And it's signed by D, because do people sign journal entries? Like, I've never written my name at the bottom of a journal entry.
Yeah, I never even wrote like Dear Diary. It's just like just
No.
right.
Right. Well,
So
this
that's
person feels the need to sign her name, at least her D. So obviously, we think it's Deborah, and it talks about this guy that she meets called T. So I mean, like, we're
and
not jumping to
Deborah's one of the
conclusions.
Deborah's one of the
Sisters.
stepsisters.
So we have Deborah and Thorn, and
D and
we think D and T, right? Shara thinks it's about them, and but she knows like they're not supposed to be together because tethereds can't have relationships. And then, like, literally shortly after that point, she sees like Deborah flirting with Thorn. She has his hand on him, and she's like whispering to him. So, I mean,
I
so
mean I
now
would
we are
too.
like, I mean, right?
I mean, she's allowed to touch him. He's not allowed to touch her. But does he?
Well, does he?
D&T, we gotta find out.
We're going to find out. But we fast forward to like our first kind of full day, and this rule breaker that we saw in the tower is coming out because she is not there very long, and she is already trying to go near like the royal palace before she's stopped by Thorn, who's like, "What the fuck do you think you're doing?" And I am normally a big like love a rule breaker, but I'm also like, do you have to get yourself killed on day one? Like, could we wait a few months before we put ourselves in like death decision like situations?
Right? Yeah.
But that's like more Jekyll and Hyde for Thorn because, he tells her in that scene he needs her to stay alive, which sounds like it's like, oh, heartstrings. But then he's like, but it's because I don't want to have to replace you. Okay, asshole.
Yeah, it's like, okay, you like me, you don't like me, what the fuck? I don't even know.
You're hot and you're cold. What is it you want?
Yeah. Cue the Katy Perry song, You're hot, then you're cold. you know. And then, of course, like as if Shara hasn't learned enough from this point, she's like, I'm gonna go do my job and clean Lady Verdan's room because she's told, you know, you have to clean this, clean this, clean this, just like Cinderella. And so she's in there and she's seeing all of these things she's never seen before. She's seeing like makeup, perfume, and she's like, ooh, what does this smell like? And she like smells it and she's like, I'm gonna do a little spritz. And, you know, put some perfume on herself, which she's not supposed to do. So again, this girl is breaking some rules, and you're like, honey, come on, are you trying to get yourself killed? And so she goes back to her room. Thorn is there waiting for her, and he ends up touching her. And again, she's like, what the hell? Why are you touching me? And he like touches like her arm and her neck and then says, I need you to do something for me. You need to go to the royal ball and seduce the prince. And you're kind of like, wait, what? Like, I just got here. You just yelled at me for going near the palace. Like, what do you mean? Like, are you trying to get her killed, dude? And she says no. But he then blackmails her and says, if you don't, I'm going to tell Lady Verdan that you put on perfume. And so then it's kind of like, shit, she has to do it because she knows if she is wearing the perfume and she gets told on, she's probably going to get killed for doing that. And then she's like, well, okay, if I go to the ball and seduce the prince, which, first of all, she's like, how am I supposed to do that?
That's my number one question.
That's like, how, like, this girl has never worn makeup, never been to a ball, like, never been allowed to touch or flirt. So it's like the high expectations here. But, you know, he's just like, I won't let you get killed. I'll be there. But the less you know, the better. It's like, okay, sure. He's like, yeah, I'll have you like, it's a masquerade ball. Like, no one's going to see you, you know, and like, you're going to be all fancied up. And he like works his own little magic and like gets her stuff that she needs. And you're just like, well, okay.
Like, do you want her to live? Do you want her to die? But like, one of my big questions was, how does he, like, how is she expected to seduce someone when she's never seen that? I know there's a scene in the tower where, like, she talks about how she saw part of, like, a romance book or something at one point, like the warden found. But I'm like, how do you know what to do when you've never seen or been around any of it? Like, are people, like, I can't think they're innately know how to seduce someone without ever, like, watching or learning, or I don't know. It's just, I'm just
It'd
like,
be
that
so
poor girl.
awkward. It'd be so awkward to be like, hey, do you like cheese? I like cheese. My favorite's Gouda. You know, like it just kind of gives me that vibe. Like, what are you doing to this poor girl? Like, we know she's hot because that's kind of like how you describe her. It's like, okay, she's a hot chick, but it's like she doesn't know how to use her looks. She doesn't know, like, do I do cleavage? I don't know. You know, she's figuring this shit
No
out.
idea.
No idea. So then Lady Verdan sees Shara and she basically just says, you know, you move things around in my room, like you're in trouble now, which she didn't do. But for punishment, she takes her to the basement and like threatens to lock her up. And again, that's very Cinderella-esque of like, you aren't allowed to go to the ball, but you know, Lady Verdan doesn't know she's planning to go to the ball. And then she's saying, if you don't listen to me and do what I say, like, you're going to live here forever, you know? And she's like, oh shit, like, no, I don't want to go back into a prison, you know? But then, whiplash, Lady Verdan's like, by the way, I need you to help get my girls ready for the ball. Like, you need to do their hair, you need to do their makeup. And Shara's like, okay, I don't really know how to do any of those things. But Maud is like, don't worry, I'll help you. Again, like, I wish I had Maud to help me do all my hair and makeup. That'd be nice.
Same. Well, and it's interesting because like at this point, I thought Lady Verdane, like when you first meet her, she seems nice, at least for like a proprietor, right? And then you have this scene where it's like, oh no, you're fake nice. Damn it. You're not nice. You really are the evil stepmother that's not really a stepmother to Shara. But we also have this like blatant difference between like Thorn seems to be allowed to do kind of whatever he wants at this point, whereas Char like supposedly moved things and is being threatened. And I question whether or not she actually even moved things at that point, or if it was that's just what happens, like on like kind of that first day. But it was interesting because, and I know just from, you know, like about the author and kind of like some of her views, I wondered, and this could be a far stretch, but is it partially a comment on like the double standard that exists for men and women, right? Because women can do certain things and it's a big deal, and men do it and it's not a big deal. And like a great example of this, while not related to this part of the story at all yet, is like it's not a big deal for men to sleep around, right? But if a woman does, there's a very different like terminology that's used, it's looked down upon, etc. And so it just made me wonder, like, even in this situation, he's treated so different. I know he's been there longer, but she's treated almost like as a lesser person. And how much of that is because she's new, but also how much of it's because she's a woman.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Very true. Very, very true. I like that. I like that discussion. Um, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what finds out. Um, but then we do actually kind of in the book hear that Shara overhears Lady Verdane yelling at Devra for flirting with Thorn. And she just kind of is like, what the hell? Like, you're not supposed to touch him. You're not supposed to talk to him. And it seems like Devra is then like kept away from the other nobles, hasn't really gotten to meet anyone else. And so Thorn is the only guy that she's allowed to interact with. And if he's a hot guy, then like, of course, she's going to naturally like be wanting to like do stuff with him. But you see Devra get into trouble for it and not necessarily Thorn. So again, double standard. Like the girl's getting in trouble, not the guy. And then Thorn and Shara end up go running on errands. And there's clear tension between the two of them because Thorn keeps like poking at Shara, trying to get her to admit that she is jealous of how he acts with Devra. Because of course she is, but she'll never tell him. But while they're at the store running errand, Shara sees her friend Elias, which she hasn't seen since the tower on placement day. And so she's like super excited and she's like wanting to like tell him everything, but like this is where I'm at, like this is what I'm doing. And then Thorn sees her and he's like super pissed because he's like, you can't go around just telling everybody what happens in the Verdane house. Because again, he kind of goes back to like everybody's trying to find out, you know, dirt on each other. So you can't just like give away stuff. But you kind of feel for her because she's like, it's like seeing your best friend after a long time. You want to tell them what's going on in your life, but she's not allowed to do that. But also, it's like, Thorn, are you just jealous? She's talking to another guy? Maybe.
Right?
Who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah.
We don't know at this point. But
Yeah.
then that night, an intruder breaks into the house. And so Shara's like awoken by the noise. And then he attacks her and he keeps asking her for the disc. So this disc clearly is like super important. And all I'm thinking is, why does someone want some teenager's diary? Like, that's crazy. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Does somebody even like know like that's what's on it? Like, I'm curious. Like, do they know that this random disc that she found is a diary? Like,
Clearly, because they're looking for it. But, and they keep talking about like she was locked in the room. And if not she as in Shara, but this other girl. And so, and if Shar doesn't give it to him, she's gonna get killed. She's gonna get killed. And then Thorn bursts into the room and like saves the day and kills the intruder, right? So at this point, we also see her touch the intruder because she's like trying to fight him off. And she has this like weird feeling again. So she's had it twice now when she's touched Thorn and when she's touched this intruder. And those are really, minus like a couple of like situations that happen in the tower, the only time she's ever touched anyone. And she sees a series of explosions happening in the capital when she touches him. And it feels like her flesh is going to burn, which is different than when she touched Thorn, because Thorn, she could just felt like he was powerful. She didn't really see anything else. So there's something happening like when she touches people that she doesn't clearly understand. And I can't imagine like how that has to feel. Like you touch someone and then like all of a sudden you see like horror things happening.
right. It's like she's in a way like mind reading, you know?
Yes.
You're like she
Or
has
like mind pulling.
yeah, like she has like an untapped power that she's discovering.
It
You
makes
know?
me think of, this is also completely unrelated, but tangent. In Harry Potter, like Dumbledore's pensive, where he like pulls his thoughts. It's like she's pulling from there and seeing all of their thoughts and like when she touches them.
Yeah. And then Thorn comes back from, you know, getting rid of this guy. And he's like super comforting to Shara and tells her all of a sudden, like, you're super special. Like, you know, I'm going to save you. And again, actually, this is the one part where Thorn gets in trouble with Lady Verdane because she says, why did you go straight to her? Why didn't you come check on us if there were intruders? So he kind of gets a little bit reprimanded there, but it also shows that he's prioritizing Shara. So he truly is kind of into her in some way. We don't know exactly yet. But oh my God, does this guy love to just mind fuck everything? You know, because like one minute he likes her, he doesn't like her, he wants to protect her, he wants to hurt her, like it's nuts.
Well, and that's what I was saying. Like, it does make me feel like it's a lot of like Rysand and the first Akatar book, beginning part of Court of Mist and Fury, because it's just like, what? I do not understand you. Like, I love to hate you, which means inevitably I'm gonna love you.
I'm gonna love you, which makes the hate sex so wonderful, you know. um, so okay, so then we find out that there's a line, you know, that Thorn can't cross either. He gets in trouble, and next we see Shara reading a little bit more of this diary because she's like, well, what is in here that people want to see? And she reads about D and T getting physical, which makes Shara like super jealous because again, she's never allowed to touch anybody. So she's reading about these two people like basically getting it on. And now you're kind of wondering if it's Devra and Prince Talon, maybe, because she starts talking about like it's a forbidden love, but like he's a royal, perhaps. And you're kind of like, okay, like, is this getting dirtier? Like, I don't know. Like, I kind of wish the diary is more of like a smut diary, you know? Like,
I mean, it does have a couple points where it's a little bit hotter.
But I want more. I want more.
I want more. Oh, more details.
Yeah, you know? And then, yeah, I'm just like, oh, you this next part. I want to try and find this diary entry really quick.
Yeah. So, like, obviously Shara's super jealous. But like also pretending not to be jealous. And she keeps, and you know, when she sees Thorn next, he wants to talk to her about the ball, and she keeps insinuating about like his relationship with Devra, which he like finds super comical and just is, you know, like, oh, silly girl. Is kind of like how I thought about it. But he says one of my favorite lines from the book, which is, Devra will hit on everything with a dick dangling between its legs. And when I read that, I laughed out loud because I'm just like, that's a very specific visualization that we got here, which I appreciated. But what's nice about it is at this part, like, Shara stands up for herself and really starts to address like the mind fucking he's been doing to her. And which is the first time you really see her stand up for herself, like, because in the tower, while she would maybe ask questions or do like push a little bit, this is the first time she's really doing like pushing the boundaries and trying to protect herself a little bit and what's going on there. And then he gets frustrated and he says, "Don't you know what you are to me?" No, Thorn.
No,
she
I
doesn't.
don't. Because yeah, it's like you're so back and forth. Like, well, how am I supposed to know?
Right.
Like,
but then like you're hot and cold. But then like the best part happens is he finally kisses her. Right? We get to the greenhouse and he says one of the other best lines of the book, which is, "You're fucking mine, Shara, even if you don't know it yet. You've always been." Which is like, swoon. Yes, please. But then also, excuse me, what? Like, I don't understand.
because she's like feeling super guarded around him still, obviously, because he's thrown up all these walls. Like, he literally has thrown up walls around them. And, you know, and now, like, figuratively. And when she suddenly is just like, this body is yours to claim. No one else's. And he's like, you don't know what you're unleashing. And you're just like, I want to know what you're unleashing.
Right? I'm here for that. I'm here for when that happens. Yeah.
Yeah. Unleash everything on me, baby. Do it, please. But yeah, no, they get some good stuff going on. But like he, you know, again, this is her like first time kind of having somebody touch her in that way, you know? And she like reveals herself to him. Like, she pulls apart her robe, reveals herself to him, and parts of her that no one's ever seen. And literally his first words are, "Fuck. You're so beautiful. The sexiest thing I've ever seen." And he like, you know, is like grabbing her breasts and like literally.
Oh, when they get to the sex scene?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. I got so excited.
Megan, you are getting very excited.
Sorry.
Megan's like, take me to the hot and steamy.
I just want to skip ahead to the hot and steamy. I know. Okay. That's a little teaser for you guys. I'm sorry. Let's rein it in. We're gonna get there.
We're pouring cold water on Megan right now.
I know.
So Megan's mind is they're having sex. In reality, we're like right before the ball. She gets this package from Thorn, which I just imagined, you know, those like
she got a package.
She's about to get a package from Thorn,
but
not that package yet. The package she gets is,
yeah.
you know, those like vacuum sealed bags that they talk about, like you can put clothes and stuff in. That's what I imagine this is. It's like a vacuum sealed bag that's like all of the, it's little, but like hide it. And he basically tells her like their entire lives are bullshit and that they shouldn't have to sacrifice everything. And this is the first time you see him really change, at least, or verbalize that he believes something similar to what she believes. And he says that, you know, he will tell her the real reason they're called tethered because it's not for what she thinks. And I'm like, okay, there's a reason why we use the word tethered, because up until this point, I hate the word. Because I'm just like, I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense. Why did the author choose that word? I'm like, there is a point to it that we're going to find out soon.
Yes, I will not give that one away. Then Maud here, she also seems to be on Thorne's side because she's super on board with like helping Shara get to the ball, even though it's against the rules. Which again, who has been messing with Maud? Because normally they'd be like, you can't do that. But apparently Shara's Maud can now control her movements thanks to an update, which is, you know, why she's able to do the hair and makeup for Deborah and Pippa, which is the other stepsister. And then she gets everybody ready. Her hands are just like, get everybody's stuff done. And everybody leaves to the ball. Shara then gets ready. And Thorne has, you know, ways of doing everything that he does. And he's been able to like conceal her identity, you know, with like a mask, kind of masquerade-ish. And then while she's waiting to leave, she ends up finding another little disc with a diary entry in it. And as she's reading it, it turns out that Dee is pregnant with a tether.
Dun dun dun.
Dun. Yeah. And her parents find out. And so then they lock her up in the same room that Shara is living in. And so she's kind of like, holy shit. That's why this room feels weird. And like this diary is in here. And she's reading this entry and it says the options for this girl are to either terminate the pregnancy or give birth to the child and then have that kid be forced into the tower, or give the baby to a noble family that's seeking out a child. So it's like, get rid of it, you know, take it to the tower and it lives its life as a tethered, or it gets to be adopted. Which, honestly, is just kind of like, what the fuck? I feel so bad for women in this book, obviously. Honestly, it's a little bit like Handmaid's Tale in that sense, and where it's like, okay, if you're gonna have a baby, like it has to be here, or you're gonna have to get rid of it, or you know, maybe it'll find a lucky home. So Shara's really pissed that she's reading this, and she's basically been lied to by Thorne that this whole thing has happened, basically, that like someone had a tethered baby, maybe, and because he knows about it clearly, and Maud tries to like calm her down. But, you know, she's like really feeling it. And she's just like, what the fuck? I need to find Thorne. I need to confront him about everything. Because she can tell he's lying. And he just denies it. And she tells him, I know about the diary. I know that you got someone pregnant. That's what she thinks. Again, because she doesn't know who T is. And he tells her, it's not me. He's like, I've never even kissed Deborah, let alone like slept with her. And he's like, plus, like, whenever this thing was written, like, I wasn't even there at the house. And then she shows him the diary. And that's when the real truth bomb drops. Guess what? Dee isn't Deborah. It's Daphne, which is Lady Verdun. And you're like,
dun dun dun.
Holy fuck. Like, Lady Verdun has a child that's a tethered. How?
and where is the child? And also I did not see that coming. It was one of those moments where like my like jaw dropped and I was like, excuse me, what is happening here?
Which I seriously, I love that about this book. You know, like 1 minute, like you think you know everything, and there's literally no hint that it's about to twist. And because you're like, okay, I know she's gonna get caught, and like this is what's gonna happen, and like literally K.A. Riley is like, haha, fuck you guys, you did not see this one coming, and it's exciting because I love that because again, you want to turn the page, you want to find out what's happening,
and you also are just like, I need to in those situations. I'm like, what did I miss? And the reality is, because I went back and reread this, nothing. There is no hints.
She gives you
to this
nothing.
drop. She gives you nothing, and I absolutely love every aspect of it. It feels very Shonda Rhimes, like Scandal-esque, where like something happens and you're like, what? Mind blown. But like the last diary entry that she sees at that point is that Lady Verdane says her parents want her to terminate the pregnancy. And so that's what we're left to believe is going to happen. Which then makes me question, like, how frequent is that? And because clearly, like, this can't be a one-off situation if there are multiple options, and there was even the discussion of potentially giving the child to another noble family. So it starts to raise the question that, like, are there tethereds living among nobles? Have some of them gotten children? Which Shara doesn't pick up on this point or even think much about it, because it's time to seduce the prince. Done, right? Like, and Prince
Do you
Talon
like
keys.
cheese?
Do you like cheese? Let me show you my boobs. Right? Like, it's, I just feel for her. So he's immediately attracted to her.
Oh yeah,
They do
she looks great.
She looks great, right?
Yeah, her dress is all sexy.
She's beautiful hair. I love that they dance, and she has no idea how to dance, but her mod controls her body for her, so she's like a very eloquent dancer. But then they go out on this terrace, and
which again is like Cinderella. Like she's at the ball, she's dancing with the prince. They go out to the terrace, and she's like,
everyone's watching them.
Ah. Yeah, everyone's watching, and they're like, who is this?
All the other girls are jealous. Woman? Yes. So then it gets to like the most awkward part of the book, which is like she asks if she can touch him, which maybe we should have phrased differently.
Can I touch you? Yeah.
Right? Like every guy is gonna be like, yes. And he's immediately going to think it's sexual. Like, what else did she think he was going to say?
Right.
But she's like, you know.
He's gonna whip out his dick and be like, touch me here.
Exactly. Which is like kind of what he like suggests. And she was like, no, like on the face. And
he's like kinky.
Right? Like just very, very awkward and weird. And I'm just like, clearly she's not been around a lot of people. So she touches him on the face, takes her glove off, touches him on the face, and she has that similar feeling like she did with Thorn, except it's more intense and violent. And then she has, because she also cannot control her face like we can't, she has like this visible reaction. And I remember like in this part of the book, it kind of, he's like, what did you see? Is like how that chapter ends. And it was really late and I was like, and moving on to the next chapter, need to know. Right. And she tries to play it off, right? Like, I've never been around a man who is this exciting, which then of course he takes as sexual because obviously all the women in the kingdom want him. So he's used to it. Yeah. And he's used to getting what he wants. So then we have this like sexual assault situation where he like
trigger warning,
trigger warning, right?
Yeah.
Which is why we said at the beginning, where he puts his hands up or underwear or panties, which is a whole separate situation. Like, do people I've never called them panties. Why do authors use that word?
I don't know. Yeah, right?
I'm like
my panties.
It sounds like dirtier.
My chonies.
My chonies. But that's not today's discussion, but just one thought.
No, we'll go there. Yeah.
And she's like feeling very violated, but she's like trying to remain calm, which I think anyone in that situation would likely feel, right?
Yeah, she's like, I don't know how to say no, but also like she's never been touched before, so she's like, no one's touched me here. Like, what the fuck? Like, she's a virgin.
Yeah,
So
well,
like,
and it's hard too because like she can't. I think she feels like she can't do anything about it because of the situation and who he is, which is, I think an
it's a
important
hashtag Me
part.
Too moment, you know, hashtag Me
Yes,
Too.
and I think it's an important point in the book because I think it's a lot of women can relate to something like that happening to them, which is really sad, but unfortunately the truth.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can relate to that. I've had something like that happen to me, and it was a trigger. I was just like, oh, I feel that yucky feeling inside. Like I know how she feels. Like it sucks. And like yeah, you can't like fight back. So, it's it's unfortunate that that happens. But then you're really rooting for Shara to, fight back, which
Exactly.
eventually she does. So go kick ass, Shara. Good for you, girl.
Right? But thankfully, like it doesn't go much further because like this trumpet sounds indicating that the championship is going to start, which we have heard from like the cook in the Verdun house that like the prince likes some extracurricular activities, which I assumed because my mind is always in the gutter, that it was something sexual related, not the championship.
Yeah, you're like, is there gonna be like an orgy or something? I don't know.
Right?
That's
I
where
don't
my
know.
mind goes. Like people are gonna come out half naked and start dancing. Like I don't know. It's not that at all. It's literally, and this part kind of reminds me of like the Hunger Games, where it's like, um, people are like fighting, to the death. But before the fighting starts, Shara is able to kind of get away and tell Thorn what she saw and that she touched the prince and, everything that she saw. And he's like, okay, you need to keep this a secret. You can't tell anybody. And then he also tells her that he may not make it out of the palace tonight, that he has to do the championship. And he encourages Shara to leave because he's like, I don't want you seeing this. You need to go. And she's refusing to do that because now she's, a little bit bonded to Thorn and she wants to know that he's okay. And like I said, the best way to describe this championship is a fight to the death, like the Hunger Games. And so you see all these people coming in, like every single noble sends like their greatest champion, if you will, to fight to the death. And honestly, this is again where you see how the tethered are treated like shit because the nobles do not care about their lives. Like some of them don't even send their actual like strongest people because they don't want to lose them for their own protection. They'll just send anybody that they're like, okay, you're disposable. You go fight. I don't really care if you die. And you're just like, fuck, that really sucks to be a tethered in this moment. So she sees all the people, and Thorn is one of the contenders, and so is her friend Elias. So she's immediately like really worried about him. So the lion, yes, is the princess champion. Thorn is the Verdun champion. So Lion, this big ass guy who kills everybody that he fights, literally has already like killed a couple people. And Shara sees that, Thorn now has to fight him. And she's really worried that Thorn's going to get killed. And Thorn lives. Spoiler. He's a good guy.
It would have really sucked if he died at this point.
Oh my God. If he had died, I would have been so mad. I'd been like, are you kidding me?
But the moment you know he lives, I'm like, shit, that means Elias is going to die.
Yeah, you're like, oh,
like someone has to die that we know.
Honestly, it brought me back into like Liam dying, like from before. I was just like, oh no, please don't let someone we know die. I don't like this. But Elias isn't lucky and he dies. And you just feel bad for him because he drank the Kool-Aid, like he wanted to serve the nobles and he wanted to be a part of this life. And he was just a prop. He was just a little prop in their life. And he dies. And Shara is so distraught. She screams out his name. And everybody else like turns to her to be like, well, why do you care about this guy? Like, you are a noble. You're dressed up in a ball gown. Like, you shouldn't give a shit about this guy's life. So it brings attention to herself. And she realizes that. And she's just like, oh fuck, I shouldn't have done that. And her mom is like, you need to get out of here. So she takes off running through the palace. Again, kind of Cinderella-esque, like she leaves the ball. And everybody's chasing after her, trying to get to her. But she gets away safely. And Maud, again, interferes and helps her, like, get out. So, That's kind of a fun little thing. But poor
Then we start to get,
Lawrence.
I know, poor, I feel bad for him, right? But then we get to some good stuff, right? So afterwards, Thorne comes to her room and he tells her everything. And we learn a ton of information that we didn't know, right? That there's actually something called like a gilded elite and a hunter who can, and her father was a gilded elite and a hunter who could detect other tethereds. He was very powerful. He could detect them like a mile away. And so can she. Obviously not
Which
that
is
far. She's a
and it's so crazy that he knows this about her. He's like, there is a prophecy, that this guy had a child and she could do all these things. And he's like, I think it's you. I think it's you. Like, and I know who your father is. And literally, when they're placed in the tower, they don't know anything about their family. They don't know who their mother is. They don't know who their father is. They don't know if they have any siblings. And so this is the first that she's heard of really anything. I mean, they're kind of told like a little bit, like who their parents were, kind of, but not much. So this is like the most tangible information she's had about who her parents are. And yeah, like the fact that her father was a gilded elite and a hunter, she's like,
Well, and she, at this point, like, she didn't even know that was a thing, right? Like, there's so much that they've not been told because those people are typically, like, killed. And then because when she touched Prince Talon, like, she saw these things, that means he's tethered, which also did not see coming whatsoever, right? And I'm just like, wait a second. Something's going on here. And it also means that, like, as her powers enhance, she's going to be able to detect other tethers without touching them. And then he tells her why they're actually called tethers, which is like so important
still trying to get
because
to it.
basically when they find the other person they're meant to be with, their powers expand. So it's kind of like another version of fated mates without like actually using the term fated mate, which I love. Because I do think like fated mate, I'm just like so over that terminology a little bit. So I love that she took the same concept but made it different and used a different way. So I didn't know what it was this like 3/4 of the book.
It
The
leaves you
other thing that's
guessing.
it leaves you guessing that's really interesting too is we learned that like Maud has been protecting her this entire time because when she's been fighting and getting hurt in the tower, that was Maud doing it to protect her so these powers wouldn't come out. And so it's like, is her, now that we know this, like, is her father, did he somehow reprogram Maud? Because Maud was reprogrammed while she was in the tower to do this. Or is there someone else out there looking for her? Like, what is going on? There's something really special about Shara.
Who is her fairy godmother in that sense?
Right.
Like, who is the person who is doing all this behind the scenes? We don't
Or
know.
puppet master. That's the other thing that, like, you don't
That's a
know
good
at this point, right? Is
that's a
like,
good phrase.
um, is there someone else pulling the strings to get her to do, even if it's to help her, to get her to do something that's going to drive their end goal?
For sure,
We
for sure.
really don't know. And I'm further in
Yeah.
the series and I still don't know.
Yeah, it's like I still know. And then we also find out that Thorn is also a gilded elite. So we know that he's a little bit stronger. Oops. I just lost my AirPod. Get back in there. That's what she said.
Or she's about to say.
Or she's about to say, yes. So we find out, Thorn's a gilded elite and he can manipulate electronics. Like he makes the little mice spies. But he's really good at like turning like things off. Like he's like, there's no surveillance in here. Like I turned everything off. Nobody can see us.
And he can like turn off their mods too. Or disable them or like tell them to go. I don't know. It's just, he's very powerful.
Yeah, so it's kind of like electricity in a way, maybe. But he can also like see and feel into the future, which again kind of gives me like Zayden vibes. So he's like he can like tell somebody's intentions, you know? I love a good shadow daddy, so that just kind of like turned me on more to him. So I'm just like, okay, hey honey, you can like give me all of that. I love it. So he came into that tower originally before he met Shara, and he was looking for a hunter. Because he knew the story that like the hunter guy, like her dad, like had a baby, and it was in the tower. So he didn't know who it was. And he didn't realize that he would find her when he went. He just was like, I'm looking for a hunter. And he's like, oh my God, that's Shara. It's her. And he realizes he's the one that she's supposed to be tethered to him. And that's what they feel, that connection, like when they first kind of like interact, and like that feeling when she like sees him and she's like, I feel connected to him. That's the tethering, because they're together. But he's also doing this because there's still like rebels in the world, and they're trying to like throw the shackles off of themselves, and they're trying to fight the nobility. So he's kind of like twofold. Like, I want to find out who this hunter is to help me with this rebellion, but I also want to find out who this person is because like now I'm feeling like connected to them in a way.
It felt very like when he's telling the story, it felt very chapter 54 of A Court in Mist of Fury, like where Ryzen's like telling the story of like how all the things he did, all the things he knows, and it just kind of it changes your perception of him very quickly in a short period of time.
Yeah, like when you go back and read it, you're like, oh my God, yeah, okay, makes sense. All the back and forth, hot and cold. This checks out.
Like you check, I mean, I could have dealt with less mind fucking for her
True,
benefit,
true.
but
Definitely could
also
have.
it makes sense. And then we get to the big part where they finally have sex. More to come
The
on that
real
topic,
fucking.
literally in a minute. We're gonna talk all things hot and steamy in just a couple of minutes, and
Yeah, we're gonna get there.
we're gonna get there. They're gonna get there. We're gonna get there in detail in a second. But then, like, you get this like big drama the next morning, right? So Char's like had this beautiful, amazing night. She wakes up alone, right? But she wakes up to Lady Verdane, who's like there and somehow knows that she has the diary and she wants it. And she sees that Lady Verdane is also tethered, which also did not see that coming, because we've thought to this point that the T in the diary is the one that's tethered based on the way that she wrote it. But when you go back and reread, one of the things that's interesting is she says she's pregnant with a tethered. We made the assumption that it was because the guy she was with was the tethered, not
Yes.
and didn't read it as the other way, right? But she's the tethered one, he's the normal, and we find out from her that she didn't terminate the pregnancy. Instead, she went a little cray-cray and killed her parents and kept the baby. And
Right?
like what?
This lady's a psychopath. She's like, she's kind of like a Stepford housewife in like the crazy way, where she like, puts on the show that like everything is like perfect and wonderful and she has everything in control. But if you fall out of line, she will literally cut you. And she did. Like, she killed her own parents. That's not nice.
And like has zero remorse for it.
Yeah, no,
at all.
Zero remorse. Yeah, like you are literally a psychopath. Kills her parents, keeps the baby, and we find out that the baby daddy was the king, which
Dun,
means
dun, dun.
Prince Talon is her son.
What?
The fuck? Like,
This is what I mean about these like bombs that she drops. Like, did not see that coming, makes zero sense. The only interactions you see between her and the king is at the ball where they're talking for a few minutes. But that would be like very normal.
Yeah, you're just like, okay, it's like a lord and a lady, like talking to a king. Oh, there's not a lord anymore because maybe she killed him too.
She did.
Oh, wait, she did. I forgot about that. She did.
She did kill him because he found the disc. Right?
Yeah, I forgot. See, she's a murderous, crazy lady.
She's crazy. So she kills the Lord
She kills
Verdane.
everybody.
She kills literally everyone, right? Like Lord Verdane finds the disc, finds out about that she's a tethered, about the prince, and he has told people. So she kills him. He hides it. She kills him because he's told other people, which is why these other intruders keep breaking into the house, because they're trying to find this disc. They don't know what's on it, but they know it's something that would hurt her. So like at this point, it is definitely not Cinderella. No one dies in Cinderella.
God, this is a dark Cinderella, guys. Like,
yeah,
Cinderella gone wrong.
But we've had like it's very fun, and we've had multiple times where I'm just like flabbergasted by the twists and turns that happen in this book. And there, like, I think I had like a jaw-dropping moment like a couple of times, and we see like what? And
then
we see that
like,
go ahead.
Oh god, yeah. No,
I was saying,
kind of like this is where we just get so excited at the end of the book. I mean, you're excited the entire time. We can't stop. And you gotta keep turning the pages.
You do, right? And like Thorne's locked up in the basement. So Lady Verdant takes her down there and she lets Shara see him. He's very like gotten the crap beaten out of him and he's like shackled to the wall and everything.
Yeah, because she finds out that like he helped her and stuff, and you know, that's why she's like punishing him, punishing her. And while she's in her oh wait, no. Yeah, they're all locked up, and Shara finds out like she's not gonna kill her because she's like, oh my god, Lady Verdant's gonna kill me. She's just gonna like, replace me. I don't matter. Because again, their lives as tethered don't matter. But she's like, your ability as a hunter, because clearly you can figure this out about people, is much more important to me. And so while she's in her cell, she has Prince Talon come and like see her. And he tells her that she's going to be in on their game and she is going to pretend to be his fiance because the whole point of the ball was so the prince could find a woman.
A wife.
A wife, yes. And so he's like, people already saw us together, so it would make sense. And he's like, I need you to be on my side, and I need you to find out if there's any other tethered hiding amongst the nobility, like me. So you're just like, dude, you're a tethered. What the fuck? Like, why do you want me to seek other people out? But he's like, you have to do this, and if you don't, like, I'm gonna kill Thorne, and you're probably gonna.
And
die
you're
too.
gonna die.
Yeah. So she's like, fuck, okay. So she agrees. But she's like, you can't hurt Thorne, and you cannot touch me again, except for in show. Like, she, you know, again, sexual assault. She's like, you can't touch me. You can't even kiss me. I won't let you do anything. So like Moses, like, we're gonna like hold hands and pretend we're together. And she's honestly worried that he's probably gonna like try and do something. But he leaves. And he leaves her in the cell to have her learn a lesson because he does invite her to come and warm his bed. And she says no, which I'm like, good for you, girl. Like, you did not fall for the handsome prince. You held your boundary, which is like, honestly, such a character growth moment for her. That she learns that she can be strong and she can say no. And that's where our book ends.
Can you imagine? Because this book came out in, I think, December of 23. And then there were a few months until book 2 came out. I can't imagine having read this and then had to wait like a couple of months for the next book. I was like, immediately, I finished at 1 a.m. and I was like, okay, I need to read book 2. And I was reading in bed and my husband's like, you need to go to bed. And I was like, I am in bed. He's like, no, like, you need to go to sleep. So I did. And then I started it the next morning.
Yeah, like, here's like the last page of it. And it's like the I'll go against everything I was ever taught and lie to every person I meet. The nobility made one grave mistake when they robbed the tethered of families in love. They left us with nothing to lose. And when it's all over, when Thorne and I are safe, when we find a way to take down the king and the prince and every other hypocritical noble standing in our way, we will live happily ever after, even if it kills us. You're like, oh, fuck.
Right?
So you're just kind of like, the phrasing in there of like happily ever after, like, again, kind of like ties back to like the Cinderella-esque, but this is not Cinderella, y'all. Like, that's, there's no Cinderella like Disney version. But it's so good. And again, like that cliffhanger of like, what happens to Thorne? Why do they want to know who the tethered is? Like, what the hell is Lady Verdant's issue? Like, what are Shara's other powers? Who are her parents? Like,
so I have so many more questions than I do answers at this point, which is what makes a great first book in a series.
Great first book. Really great. I applaud K.A. Riley for that, and I would love to have her on the show. That'd be fun.
Well, let's talk hot and steamy because
Yay!
That's what we love here. So if you don't love it, feel free to fast forward, but we're going to talk hot and steamy stuff every single episode in detail. This book feels like another three pepper for me, right? We get some good spice, but it's not like, I don't need a fan. It's not super detailed enough, but
I think that's okay because like the plot is so good that like,
yes,
you are invested in it. And so like, even though like you have the desire for the spice, you're also like very curious about like what happens next to the characters. Like, what's this next plot twist? And then like a twist happens and you're like, holy shit, like that's all you can think about. You're like kind of distracted by it. But of course, you know, she does you a favor and she still gives you some spice. Yeah.
I think it's interesting because I think that's a kind of a trend with a lot of first books in a series. You get like a little bit of spice, and then I think as the series ramps up, sometimes you get more spice because there is so much world building that needs to happen for you to understand the space and the magic. So we'll talk through maybe like there's a couple of chapters, there's 3 chapters where there's spice. So chapter 33, we get that diary scene between D and T, who we now know are Lady Verdane and the King, where they get physical for the first time in the
Oh, yeah.
greenhouse,
Oh,
right? Right, where there's lots of touching going on.
Like literally, she's like, it's funny. It's like he must have been reading my mind because without a word, he took my face in his hands and kissed me. And then later, it's like T got on his knees and I ran my fingers through his hair. He lifted my blouse and tore my brow away like he's done it 100 times. Knew exactly what he wanted. He looked so hungry. He stared at me. And you're just like, yes.
It's great visualization. Like it's really very descriptive that gives you that ability to like perfectly visualize like the surroundings, what's happening, like the emotions on the faces, which I love. And then it's also
Yeah.
kind of it's where I would say
Sorry, I'm getting excited reading this chapter again. I'm like,
it's good, right? But then what's interesting is you have that greenhouse scene, and then to Thorn when he in the same chapter pulls Shara into the greenhouse and they finally kiss, right? She's like thinking about the scene that she's just read, right?
yes.
So like it kind of almost makes it feel like, is this where he takes women? When you
Right? Yeah, because
when you
again, you
didn't
don't
know it was
know.
that it's not him.
Yeah. You're like, is this where you take all of your lady friends when you want to pleasure them?
To
Is
them.
this the greenhouse or is this the pleasure house?
A little bit of both, apparently. At least in
A
this book.
little bit of, yes, a little bit about. But yeah, so then, you know, after reading that, which is kind of funny because then it's like the diary entry is Shara's own like smut book for herself.
Yes.
You know, it's her first time like really reading something like intimate about like where to put your fingers, where to touch yourself, and like what the feeling can be and like how your body can react to it. And so she's like, I'm gonna explore. And you know, in the next little spot is chapter 35. Oh wait, no.
Yes.
Yes. That is
Yeah,
chapter
chapter 35. And we get that
Yeah,
next
yeah.
diary scene between D and T where they have sex, which
Mm-hmm.
is also like it's interesting because I think it's the first romantasy book that I've read where you read about someone else having sex that are not the main characters. And so you get a little bit of spice for people that you don't know who they are, which I think is it's kind of a fun play on it, to be honest. But then the best part of, in my opinion, of that chapter is then you have like Shara who decides to basically like pleasure herself and figure that out while imagining Thorn,
Yes. And you're like, girl, I know you liked him. We all knew you did.
right? You
Yeah.
cannot pretend now. And
Yeah,
she
no.
can't because the little mouse Mercutio comes in the room and that records it.
Such a
Like
little perv.
he is. Like, and all I thought of was like, can you imagine? Like, she is touching herself for the first time, which has to feel like exciting and uncomfortable, right? For someone. Like the first
Yes, if
time
you
you're
don't know
doing
what
it.
you're doing, you're like, what am I feeling here? What is this spot? Like, and has she done that before? You know, like I mean, she really hasn't, but
No.
you know, like when you're by yourself, like her mom would be like, zzz, zzz. You're like, don't do it.
And her mom's doing
Yeah.
nothing during this situation. And then you see the little mouse scurry along. And my one of the things that she says towards the end of that I loved is she's like, well, he's gonna go report back to Thorn, and she was like, and Thorn's gonna watch this, and she was like, well, and then she's like thinking to herself, like, well, I kind of hope he does, and I'm just like, damn, girl, yes,
Yeah, yeah. She wants to tease him a little bit, which he did. He did watch it a
a
little
little
bit.
bit,
And he's
yeah.
like, well, I stopped when I realized what you were gonna do. I'm
Do
like,
we
did
believe
you?
he's telling the truth
I
though?
I don't
Because
believe
I
him.
don't.
I
I
don't believe
don't.
him. I don't believe he has that much self-control. But it's fun. It's so fun that I'm like that sexual tension and we finally get to like do it in chapter 49, which I made the joke earlier before we were recording, that I was like, it should have been chapter 69. But obviously there's not that many chapters in this book. But they get it on, and they get it on good, y'all. It's like, okay. Like I said, I kind of like skipped ahead because I was so excited earlier. But it's just crazy because it's like, this is what the nobles forbid, this moment right here. A deep, painful, mutual need between two people who have been kept apart for so long. Because remember, they're not allowed to touch anyone. I mean, they're not allowed to touch themselves, not allowed to touch any people, but
They're not allowed to think about it.
Not even. And so here's another one that he says. He's like, do you know how many times I've disabled my mod unit so I could stroke myself, imagining your mouth on me? And you're just like, yeah. Because again, he can manipulate electronics. And then she's like, I thought of you too. I know. Good. He saw everything. And that's when he's like, yeah, I may have seen a little something, something. And, she's like loving it, and she's like, more. And, he's loving it. And then we find out that they have fertility suppressors. Because again, if they're not supposed to touch, they're not supposed to fuck, they're not supposed to have babies. But
then why?
Yeah. It's like, then why even bother with that? It's weird. So it's kind of like they know it's going to happen. Because again, they know tethered babies come back to the tower. So
that's true. It's not like they just stopped coming to the tower.
Yeah. And also it's like, but they want them to reproduce because otherwise you're not going to have your servants.
That's a really great point.
So it's like, why would you forbid this when it's literally the people that you want to do stuff for you, to do your dirty work? Like, that part doesn't make sense. So it's like it's a gray area, like they're allowed sometimes to kind of touch, but it's not encouraged. But it's weird in that way. But you like it. I really honestly,
it's a good chapter.
It's a really good chapter. I'm gonna get lost in this again anyway. But he's just like, never in a million years did I imagine I would have the privilege of making you come for me, Shara. And it's like, with that, he like goes down on her and is like going at it, and you're just like, holy shit. That's not safe for work, you guys. It's not safe for work. But it gets detailed. It is fun. And honestly, on this book, I did something I don't normally do. I did audio and I read it at the same time. So I did kind of like a 2-for-1 because I've got 3 kids. That's not surprising. My husband and I have fun reading these books. Anyway. So I got 3 children, and I'm always running around chasing after them. And so sometimes I need to just listen to my book. And the voice actors on this were so good. And sometimes like the voice actors can kind of turn you off. Like there's been a couple books I've listened to where I'm just like, I'm not getting into this because the voice isn't right.
Or it doesn't match what you've envisioned. It should be.
It doesn't go. But this one did. And I appreciated that very much so. Like, there was one point where I had it on speaker at night, and I was like, hey, babe. So it was nice. It was a good one. But obviously, like, reading it on paper also does the job. So it was fun. So however you want to listen or read to this book, just read it. It is so good.
So good.
You will love this series. Oh, I lost my AirPod again.
You will.
You'll lose your AirPods. And don't let this book play on in your car though.
No, unless you're all alone.
Unless you're all by yourself. Oh man.
But anyways, the best part I think is like I love romantasy books because of the theories you can like create or dive into or start to pull apart. And I don't know if I have a ton of good theories at the end of this book as I have like
questions.
So many questions, right?
Yes.
Like why, like, couples who are tethered have this pull towards each other like fated mates? Does that mean like everyone has a tethered or just some of them? Like we don't know at this point. Who is helping Shara in the tower? Someone did it was to make sure her real powers didn't come out. We also know that someone did it when she came to Labor Dan's house, that she had that update done overnight.
Oh, yes.
Right? Like, is this her father doing it?
Is it like an Apple phone update, you know?
Update,
You get plugged in.
Just does it for you, right? But like her father's really powerful, we know. So is he doing it? But then how is he doing it? Like, is the person that reprogrammed her and did the update the same person that did it in the tower, or is it a series of people? Like, what is happening there? Because there's definitely more people connected to what they're trying to make happen with Shara and Thorn than we know at this point in the book. And so there's like 1,000 possibilities of who they could be.
Yeah, there's a lot more behind the scenes, like if you want to think like Wizard of Oz-esque, like who's behind the curtain? Like who is pulling all these strings? Who is doing this? We don't know. And like again, like that's what you love about the book, because you can theorize, like, is it the king? Does he have like some secret crew of people who are doing things because he wants things to be a certain way? Or is it, like another tethered person? Like, could it be her dad who like is trying to like plan a rebellion and like doing all the stuff? Like, I don't know. Like, or are the mods? Is AI finally taking over? Are they kind of like, enough of this shit? Like, you humans have fucked the world up. We're taking over, which is possible.
Also possible. And then, like, how does, like, Thorin says he knew a hunter was in the tower, right? How did he know that? Like, who else is he connected to? And I think that's like the one thing, he knows a lot and he has like some of the same beliefs that she does, or like she's questioned stuff. I don't know if they were beliefs, but she's questioned the system. He seems to know more of the truth about the system, but how? He was raised just like her. He's been in the Lady Verdan's home like for what, 3 years now since he left the tower. Like, why does he know what he knows? How do you know there's a hunter there? That this is the year he needed to go there and look for the person. Why is he looking for the hunter? Like, is he being sent? Did he just like wake up one morning and go, I heard there's a hunter in the tower. I'd like to go. I don't think so. But he never tells us that. I hope she's hot. Right? He never tells us that.
Yeah, no. And then you're like, how many other tethered people are out there? Because again, like, it's a secret, or not secret, but like they're not supposed to, like touch each other or fuck each other. And so it's like, how do they reproduce? Number one, without with being told that they're not supposed to. But then also like, how are the nobles getting away with this shit? And like, how is this happening? And it's like, and why? Why does the prince want to know who the other nobles are that are tethered? Like, why do you need to know this? Because like clearly like he's a tethered, so it's just like, do you just want to like start like a little like after school program for all like the tethered nobles? Like, do you want to like reproduce with them and then make like super tethered nobles? Don't know.
But if he's the tethered, like the one thought I had at that point was, if he's tethered and Lady Verdan's tethered. Now we've not met a lot of other nobles in this book, but like the majority of them, like them in bigger groups, but the majority that we've met, we know their names, are tethered. So it's like, is this really prominent? And there's all these people that are wearing these like almost like masks of who they are, pretending to be nobles when they're actually tethered. And then what makes a tower tethered versus a noble tethered?
Right? Like, why did Lady Verdan, well, obviously we know she killed her parents and she made her own decisions, but like, why was that even an option for her to be able to give her baby to a noble family? Like, why wasn't just it automatically sent? And also, I mean, you kind of start thinking about like, how is she tethered? Like, who, like,
who is she connected to?
Yeah.
Does she have a fated mate? Does she not? And I guess can tethers have, I mean, clearly they could have sex with whoever they wanted to, if assuming it was allowed, but like, is this baby born out of like a tethered situation? Like where she's tethered to this other person? No, because he's a normal. Does that mean she has a tethered out there? Or do some people just not? And I don't know, but I feel like all of this is so important to the story.
So important. And again, like, you have so many questions, and like you're gonna find out maybe in the next couple of books. And that's where you're just like, I need to know more. Give me that next book, please. So, moving on. Moments that made my heart race. And also the ones that made me roll my eyes. So first of all, when Shara and Thorn are fighting on Placement Day and he puts up those walls, you're just like, again, oh fuck, it's going down. Like, this is dangerous, this is mysterious, but it's also like really hot. So you're like, are we gonna do something inside these walls? Or are you going to kill me? I don't know. Should I be turned on or should I be terrified?
There's thin line
Mhm.
between love and hate. And hate
A
and
thin
fucking,
line.
apparently.
So that's like making your heart go crazy, where you're just like, I don't know what's gonna happen. I need to know. Like, I just got introduced to these characters, but they could easily be taken away from me.
Yes, definitely. I also love that she named the mouse Mercutio, which is like a Shakespeare reference, because, and I thought this, like, especially as the book went on, they feel a little bit of like Romeo and Juliet, right?
Yes.
Right? Like they're forbidden to be together. No one, and it's based on like bullshit that no one really understands, right? Um, which then makes me wonder, like, do they eventually die at some point? Because
Oh
that story does not.
no.
Well, do you know what I mean? Because like in Romeo
Yeah.
and Juliet, they do die, both of
Oh yeah.
them.
Yeah.
So it's just like it was just like an interesting kind of. I feel like his name is really important for some reason. Like there's more to it, uh, just because it's a very intentional. It's a very intentional name tied to it.
He's sharp around like a thorn, honestly.
Yes.
But it's like, is Shara his rose?
Ooh, I don't know. Is maybe.
Oh, I have so many questions, but I love it. But yeah, you're just like, oh. And then when they kiss, obviously in the greenhouse, and they finally have sex, you're just like, I, I did like that. I did like that moment when they
Liked it a
finally
lot.
have sex. Clearly, I kept skipping ahead to it, and I was like, guys, let's get to the sex scene, please.
Well,
But yeah,
and it's not
let's
just
go.
one sex scene. Like they don't just have sex once; they have sex like multiple times, which I think is not typically what happens in a lot of books when like the main characters get together. You get like one thing, and then you wait a few more chapters. I love that we got like a bunch of it all at once.
We did. But I would still, honestly, I would still give it the three spice rating. Like, even
Yes,
though we got some good stuff and like we got it like a good amount, like, I still think there could be more. Like, I don't know how to describe how I would want more, but it's just like, I just still, I'm like, okay, three, maybe a 3.5. I would give it that, maybe like a 3.5. I'll bump it up.
it could be more with more volume and or frequency, as well as more detail.
Yeah, yeah. I'm
So
going up half a pepper.
half a pepper.
Half a pep. Yeah.
I also
Okay,
just
now,
love. I was gonna say I also love just some of Thorne's quotes throughout the book. I feel like when he started finally admitting how he feels, they were just so well written, which I really appreciated.
yeah, yeah. It didn't feel cheesy. It felt like genuine based on like his kind of background and his story and like how they have not been allowed to say these things out loud. And it's like the final like release of like, I can tell you how I feel and show you how I feel without my mod like in me. So it's like a freedom and it's nice. And you're like, all right, I like this for you guys. I ship that.
I ship that too a lot.
That's what I hear that some of the kids say these days. I don't know. But okay, but the things that like literally drove me crazy and like made my eyes roll was like, are you kidding me? Was like the flirting, like the unnecessary flirting between Deborah and Thorne. Like, obviously, like he has to play into it. He has to like do whatever the nobles want because it's his livelihood. It depends on it. Like they can do and say whatever they want. Like kind of like a Cinderella scene where it's like, if you don't do what I say, I'm gonna kick you to the curb and tell my mom that you did all the stuff that you didn't actually do. So like the flirting between them, you're just like, ah, I know it's supposed to kind of like happen, like he has to do it, but just making Shara jealous, I feel like they could have done more in terms of like that, like the necessity of it. Like, what if we saw them kissing, or like what if we like saw him like touching her, like more like forbidden stuff. I feel like it could have been better. Like otherwise, it kind of seemed like a teenage girl was just like making like googly eyes at a boy, which is true because Deborah doesn't know anybody else. But it's just kind of like you could have like dug into it a bit.
I think that would have made it feel a bit more impactful in the story and made him feel even less trustworthy like throughout the book until we learn who he really is. And then the other part that I just really didn't love was how her friends treated her in the tower. There's like so much of this like class system between the tethered normals and nobles. There's also the class system within the tethereds, and I don't know if that was as necessary to get as they're kind of cutthroat with some of the comments that they say, like some of the comments like Nev makes. And I'm just like, did we need that? Did that add to the story? Did it not? I think it's important for us to know how her, like Shara's power is not very helpful and is considered useless by everyone. But it felt like pouring salt on a wound, right? Or just, punching someone in the face while they're down. It didn't really do anything to me besides make me feel bad for her, but not in a way that I didn't already feel, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, don't kick a horse.
Right?
Don't kick a dog while it's down. Yeah, yeah. But again, the only thing I could say with that is it does emphasize that they don't know how to have proper relationships.
Oh, that's a good point.
Because they're not supposed to. Like they're like friendship is not encouraged. They're not allowed to hug, not allowed to touch, not allowed to even like hold hands, like
or have emotions, right?
Or have emotions. Yeah. So it's hard when like you're literally emotionally stunted to create friendship. So actually, I could say in a way that's their first way of rebelling against the system. Like they're being told not to do all these things, but it still naturally happens. They still find a connection with other people, and it's flawed, absolutely, but they still try. And I think that at the end of the day is just like human nature, whether it's dystopian or not, like the will to keep going, the will to move forward and do what feels right, and the connection that you need with other people is still going to be there, even if you take away everything else, even if you take away physical touch, physical intimacy, and like emotional intimacy. Like we are humans and we need these things, and we're going to seek them out. Maybe.
Good point. So, what's next? If you enjoyed this book, which you all hopefully loved it as much as we did, then you're definitely going to love book 2 in the Thrall series. It's broken. And you're probably going to love the rest of the series, given how good book 1 and 2 are. We're both in the midst of... I started book 3 already.
Yeah.
We can't wait to read book 4, and the new one coming out next month. So if you like this book, you're going to like the rest of the series from what we've read so far. I also would say Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. It's very, I would say, similar vibes of like fighting up against nobility if you haven't read that one. But here's like my warning about Throne of Glass. I always tell people, especially if they've read ACOTAR, there are not many spicy scenes in Throne of Glass. There are a lot of books that you have to read with 0 spicy scenes until you get to some, and the ones that has are very tame. But I do think if you like, it's still really good. It's really great storytelling. But I think if you like the vibes of like kind of rising up, I think it's a really great series.
Yeah. Ditto. I loved Throne of Glass. And if you read Throne of Glass, I would recommend doing the tandem read at the end. I know it's kind of hard to do. I liked it. But then also like reading it based on I forget how they
publication
call it.
date.
Yeah. So it's like you don't necessarily like read like the first book first. You kind of like go back. Like read Throne of Glass and first.
Before you read Assassin's Blade. Yes.
Before you read Assassin's Blade. Yeah. That's what I'm trying to say. My mind is like on Thrall right now, so I'm like, wait, okay, what's the order of Throne of Glass again? So yeah. But again, it's not very spicy. It does have some. So she does throw you a bone.
Just not enough for us to talk about on the show.
Yeah. And then don't forget to check out the contemporary romance episode we dropped this week. You get a 2-for-1, you guys. So exciting. We are covering The Paradise Problem which is a fantastic read as well. And make sure to join us next week when we dive into the world of romantasy and talk all things Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros.
Thanks for listening to Late Night Reads. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Late Night Reads Podcast, and check out latenightreads.com for even more information about all the books we're reading. If you loved today's episode, make sure to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast, and share the show with your fellow book lovers.